for today. Take this music and use it. Let it take you away and be hopeful, hopeful, and he'll make a way. I know it ain't easy, but that's okay, cause we hopeful.
I wish that you could show some love instead of hating so much when you see some other people coming up. I wish I could teach the world to sing, write some music and have them tripping off the joy I bring. I wish that we can hold hands, listen instead of dissing lessons from a grown man. And now
we are live at the Befit for Business podcast.
Hey guys.
I have a super amazing guest today. You have seen us together and probably everywhere.
Pretty much.
But welcoming Deb to our show.
I'm so happy to be here.
But first, let me tell you who Deb is. Deb does a lot of work behind the scenes for the Befit for Business podcast.
I do.
She is like the greatest assistant, a greatest visual creator, the greatest everything. She facilitates so much of everything that goes into Befit for Business and also some things for Befit and Focus as well.
Yeah.
Shout out to Befit and Focus. You're a local juice company.
Yeah.
Deb, I'm so happy to have you.
I'm happy to be here. I feel
Yeah.
like I'm exxchanging with you.
Yes, right. Oh,
In a
shout out
different-
to the Exchange
Shout out to the
podcast.
Exchange place.
Deb is the leader, owner, founder of the Exchange podcast. One of my favorite podcasts.
I know, and it's so crazy because it's like you've been on so many times.
I know, it
and
feels
Grace,
weird. Like I'm leading.
I know. So it's like it's good to be in the opposite seat, and I just gotta kind of answer questions and stuff,
Yes.
and I don't have to.
I love it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna make you listeners like a fly on our wall because Deb and I always have so many in-depth conversations.
We do.
Tonight our topic is going to be about leadership and how leaders, period, and how leaders work together, especially when it comes to business. I would coin myself as a leader. I would absolutely coin Deb as a leader.
Definitely. we are.
And I think in the journey of entrepreneurship, you are the leader of yourself.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you are the lead, not even sometimes, you are a leader of a team because if you have other people facilitating what it is that you actually do in business, then you have to also be over them. And also, too, I pride myself on actually working with leaders. I'm not.
You do.
Yeah, I'm not really a person that likes to be like I'm not like. I'm the leader and you're my subordinate. No,
Yeah,
I actually feel.
And you got some great leaders around you.
Absolutely. My circle is full of leaders.
It is.
Honestly,
It
anyone close to me, I look for that.
Yeah.
Because we will help each other in ways that we may not really know.
Yeah.
You've helped me tremendously in the entrepreneur game, and despite, me taking on that journey full time,
I'm coming.
you coming.
I'm coming
you
full-time.
coming. She's coming,
Yeah.
definitely. And, some things that we've been through, some things that we've seen, it's crazy. Like,
Leaders need leaders.
Leaders need leaders. They
And
really do.
I don't think that's something that people really talk about. And it depends on where people are. I always say that, right?
Right.
The lens of which they look through. But I think sometimes leaders don't work with leaders a lot of times. I'm not sure why. I could, of course, my opinion is normally they want to be or feel like the head and not have other strong people around you. But I feel like so many things fall off the plate when you don't have leaders around you. So it's like, hey, if you are not able to be in that place, somebody else can kind of pick up. You know what I'm saying? And having people, I've been in situations where I've seen a leader and have people under them, and then when they're not there, the whole ship falls. And that should never happen.
That should absolutely never
It should
happen.
never
You should be
happen.
trained. And that's the thing. Like, even with me, I have employees and stuff like that. I love self-starters. I love self-efficiency.
Yeah.
I love people to bring on whatever it is that they feel that they're good at and utilize that. So, for instance, I could come in and say, okay, this is what we need to do. If you find a faster way, a more feasible way, a more efficient way to get something done, I welcome that.
Yeah, you should.
You have to, because people, it's. But we always talk about this. It takes trust to do that. But I don't even necessarily think sometimes it's trusting the person. It's just trusting yourself and your own intuition, too.
Yeah. And trusting the person's gift, right? So
Absolutely.
I really think that people have different gifts, and you have to cultivate those gifts. And where you may be weak in the area, or I may be weak in the area, we can kind of exchange in that way.
Absolutely.
That place is strong with the business as a whole, and not so much just on that person. And that's what makes it amazing to work with leaders, amazing to work with you, because I'm not worried, like, okay, if I show up late, or if I'm doing something that I can't get to this particular thing, or I need to say, hey, can you reach out to Am? I'm busy right now. Like, I'm never worried, like, is Am going to say the right thing?
Right. I'm never worried about that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm never worried about whoever my customers are, or for the show, that they're in your hands. I understand that. And it does have a lot to do with trust.
Yeah, it does.
It 100% does. But it's also being a leader who builds leaders.
Correct. I love leaders who build leaders.
Yeah.
And I think I learned that probably the hard way. I definitely would
That's
say.
how learning happens most of the time.
Like I would definitely say I remember being mentored. And I remember, I was mentored. It was going good. But I felt like I was stuck under that mentorship. It was like the person did not see me beyond what they were tutoring, or, the tutelage.
Yeah.
And when you are a leader training leaders, you have to be okay with the fact that they will branch off from you.
And they might outgrow you.
They will outgrow you.
That's the goal,
But you have
though.
to, that is the goal.
That's the
but
goal.
I'm not a keeper
not
of people
everybody's
like
goal.
that. Like, so me, I love to see, what's the dopest thing? I remember, How Delish, a great friend of mine, Laquan.
Hey, Quan.
Shout out to Laquan from
I
How
love
Delish.
her.
I remember when I first met Laquan. Laquan was just starting her business.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, Laquan, I know these dope platforms. Come on, let's start,
Yeah.
She started, and she one of her early startup things, she was in the Girl Power Pop-Up Shop when it was a small thing back in 2018.
That's when I started eating
Laquan
her
is
sweets.
blowing it through the roof. And there
killing
became
it.
a time where she was like, Amber, I can't do the pop-up anymore. I was so happy to see how much she was flourishing, the different things that she
growing.
was taking on. She ended up opening up a store location. Like, so it's okay. Like, again, that's a pure, like, example of what leaders working with leaders look like.
Yeah.
I would never have tried to cramp her style and say, no, you need to do a pop-up
or
or
stay
make her
here.
feel like, no.
Yeah.
The point of it, she was gaining everything that she needed to move on. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like, me personally, I like to leave people with something. Even if we don't have the longest connection, I know for a fact, whether good or bad reasons I've connected or disconnected with anyone, I left them with something.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel true leadership is that you don't have to be present for you to see your work, for you to see how much how impactful you were, and to see that the other leader took what it is that what their innate abilities and grew from the connection.
I think so. It's weird because I think I've started over the last year under my mentor, kind of looking at leadership a little bit differently, not just in the entrepreneur world, but even in, like, everybody leads something. Even if you're a parent, you lead something. And I was telling you earlier, like, I'm so glad watching both of my kids, but especially my older son, like, I learned from him. And I'm in a place to learn from him. You know what I mean? Like, some people, you feel like, oh, well, I'm your mother. I'm his mother, but in stocks and stuff, I don't know. So it's like, he's been school. When I say schooling me, he's no joke on that. I go to him, I'm like, what's going on with the stock? You know what I mean? But some people can't receive from people that they feel like are underneath them. And though I'm over him as far as a mom, of course. But in that area, I've let him as far as I can get him. Whatever he can give and give back to me is amazing. So we have to be in a place to, work with leaders and understand that we can outgrow leaders.
Yeah, and also another key point is always be teachable.
Yeah.
As a leader, you have to
That's so
always
good.
be teachable. You
So
can't
good.
just think that I have made it to this certain level and nobody can tell me anything. A great,
so
great
good.
example of that. When you, for instance, right? When I've known Deb for quite a few years now, but Deb and I became closer. Like, I mean, we've always kind of like been close, but like even closer because we work so well together. And with the pop-up experience, COVID happened, and we were like, dang, I had to literally take an event that I had planned in December, and it ended up getting pushed, I think, into like April because of COVID.
Yeah.
And we both like kind of sat down like, dang, this is crazy. I can't believe it. But Dad was like, yo, I think it's just a better way we can do this.
Yeah.
And I couldn't see it at first, but I was trusting of what it is that she saw. Why? Because number one, she's never done anything to lead me to destruction.
Yeah.
She's never given me any type of advice or even a word that felt out of tune. So I trusted that she saw something that I did not see. And here we are at the Befit for Business podcast, where I have the great ability not only to just be manipulated into one building of 20 businesses. I'm now at, like, we've reached already 20 businesses within like the first season, and we're still going. We still have way more people to feature. And it went from having an event one time for 20 businesses to now we could do like 20 businesses per month. It could be up to, listen, right? It could be like 50 to 60 businesses in a season.
Yeah.
So it's important as a leader to trust people that are in your circle. You are supposed to push each other. I've been in situations that I felt uncomfortable working with another leader because I felt like they felt like we were ego battling.
I was about to say, like, it was more of a competition.
Yeah, I'm like, we're not in competition, honey, because what I'm doing and what you're doing not even the same thing.
It's not the same thing.
It's
I think
not.
You know what that is, but I think that's a personal thing. I think once people figure out who they are, it doesn't matter how many podcasts there is. It doesn't matter how many pop-up shops there are. It doesn't matter whatever you do. I would tell the listeners, you do it. I tell the kids this or the boys this when they were on the basketball court, that only you can do you, like you. Like, and there's something distinct about all of us that we have, that we bring to whatever field that is, whatever you're working in, whatever your, you know what I mean, niche is in that field. You bring something different to that. And once you know that, there's no intimidation about somebody doing that. It's celebration of like, that's like me not wanting to come on your podcast.
Yeah.
I love what you're doing.
I knew, what you're doing.
And of course we knew that one another were doing this. So it was never going to be competition. It's like, how can I help you?
Yeah, exactly.
For it to be better.
Exactly.
And it's no different than you gracing us with your presence on the podcast.
I am a friend of the show.
Yes,
okay?
and I'm a friend of this show.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Yes.
I love to see things come to pass that we've seen and that we talk about and that we've manifested. And if people get, I think, understanding first of themselves, and that's with everything. I just feel like once you know who you are, it just feels your life flows different.
It does, and I'm so glad, and I'm so glad that even myself, because I would say, like, I mean, I've always felt like I was a leader. There was a point that I had to be a student because I was entering a new world. Entrepreneurship, I had never worked for myself. So it took someone who did work for themselves to kind of like sit me down, guide me through that, give me tutelage. But again, I'm so glad that I had the strength and to not be so boxed in. And it actually turned out as rough as that patch was to disconnect with that mentor. I thank God for it because it really stretched me way further.
I thank God for it because I come to you. You know, I'm transitioning. We're trying to transition out of working and doing what I know that I'm called to do. And I come to you often, like trying to get kind of like, what is that going to look like? What is that going to feel like? So think about if I couldn't receive that.
Yes.
Right? Think about if, I know sometimes another thing that people see age. I'm older than you are. Right? And people be like, well, I'm older, so I know. You might know something, or because I don't take away people's wisdom. You may have wisdom in one area. That doesn't mean you have wisdom across the board.
Correct. And age is not connected to wisdom.
It's really not. It's really like you could have somebody who is way younger than you and they have a different eye. They see through a completely different lens and have so much wisdom in things that just, God-given wisdom.
Absolutely.
So you have to be able to receive from that.
Absolutely.
Or you miss that.
Yes, and I honestly can say that I'm 34 years old. I don't feel like a spring chicken, but at the end of the day, in my world, I don't know a lot of entrepreneurs my age or younger like that. Yeah. I'm young kind of in that field.
Yeah.
So even the people I've worked with over time who are older than me, they sometimes forget, like, hey, although, yes, you are older than me, I am still the leader of the ship.
Yeah.
And you have to trust my ability, because, like, I don't lead people to destruction. I don't lead people, and I wouldn't even advise anyone to do anything outside of what I would feel comfortable doing for myself.
Absolutely.
Now, maybe not, because you know what? I do tell my friends to quit their jobs all the time.
It's all right, 'cause every day I think about it. Every day.
But it's
I wanna
all good.
transition
I mean,
lately.
but ultimately, it's all good. I'm not going to give you negative advice as far as like your journey. I'm there to support you. There's so many things. Shout out to like all my leader friends, King Dia, you, Sharita from Shopping Collection,
Yeah.
like just all my girls or whatever that I can come to. I can talk to them on a deep level pertaining to entrepreneurship. We understand the language. We understand where it is that we're the struggle, what we're going through.
It is not for the faint at heart.
It's not for the faint of heart at all. But like I said, when you are amongst good leaderships and you work well with leaders, you will take the information or the experience that you have, like talking from one person to another, and you would take it to grow. One thing I did though, when I was being mentored, it taught me things that I should do and things I don't even want to try.
Listen.
Because again, just because some people are at certain levels, they are stuck. Some people are stuck at those levels. And when I kind of find a leader who's not open to like new ideas, or they're kind of like, no, this is what happens and this is how it works and I don't do anything different. Times are changing.
Yeah.
And if the pandemic didn't teach us that about pivoting and moving and restructuring, you are stuck. I literally watched so many businesses during the pandemic be so stuck. Like I won't name the business, but it was like a diner that I frequented, ran by an older generation. And they weren't even doing DoorDash, Uber Eats, whatever. And I know for a fact, because where they are and they're so reputable, that if they even just took the moment to have someone just come in and say, hey, listen, there's a better way for us to facilitate this. Do you mind if I help you? And allow them to lead that part of it. They probably would have killed it during the pandemic, but they were just sitting around like, well, things not the same. You can't do that.
You can't do that. You know what's funny is so I had the opposite experience, and you know, like for my church, I did media, and part of that was so amazing in the pandemic because I saw even a lot of churches. You know, just
nobody
really
was going
had
to
a really
church,
hard time, and or had any avenues to help to facilitate you going to church. I go to the greatest church on earth.
I love it.
Shout out to Change Church and Dr. Darius Daniels, because I love them. I love them, and Shamika Daniels. I really love what they're doing, because and Pastor, it's funny because he said he really didn't like the online thing, kind of why I started going there, because I was consulting at the time. But they literally, when I say it's like a whole show of what they do to record and all of that.
Too.
But when the pandemic hit, it was so easy to switch gears and pivot and literally not make excuses, but like make that change. And
they were preset though.
They did better probably in the pandemic than they did because they could reach so many more people.
Yes, because like I remember like even when you invited me, it's in you in New Jersey.
It is. I drive. Well, I normally drive down.
But that's further for me.
Yeah,
that's a good hour and whatever.
It's probably 2 because it's like an hour and 15 for me.
It's a little drive, but and I work heavily on Sundays, right? So
I
don't get. So sometimes I tune in when I'm working, or I gotta catch it Monday. Yeah. So that's dope. Like how many churches you know that you
YouTube,
could just catch? You
Facebook
could just check it the next day. Yeah.
They use so much technology,
and they're dope because what I love about your church is that that's what the pastor does.
He builds leaders.
He builds leaders.
Here
and
we
he
are.
always talk about he talks
Here
about building leaders and building world changers.
Yeah.
I even look at that even as a mom, like with my children, like I want to build leaders. I want to build people.
Absolutely.
And it's so
you are though.
Oh,
Kayla.
I know my daughter is.
Kayla is already a leader. Dallas gonna be right behind her.
Yes,
I mean, you're already doing that.
Yes, like even as I'm transitioning to my business, like you know what I'm saying. I'm trying to be a business owner now.
Yeah.
My daughter is going to be fully in full throttle of that transition.
Yeah.
She's
but
going
she's
to
already, I've seen,
yes, she's a facilitator.
I was about to say, perfect example, when we went down to Philly that time, like, Kayla knows what to do. You know what I mean? And though I can help out with Befit and Be Focused, your local juice company.
Hey,
but I was like, okay, Kayla, what we doing? And Kayla's like,
she's very efficient,
and she can take charge and get it done.
I could literally not be there, and I trust that everything I need to do is going to get done. I'll never forget one time we were in the Mac store, and I think I was on the phone with you, like trying to handle something, and Michaela's like right there, and the lady's trying to talk to me, but Kayla's there. She's like, I got it. Here's her information. Here's what you need. What's the payment? Okay.
That.
And the lady even said, she said, wow, you just know everything she needs because she
been
can
around
be.
you.
I
You
can take
trained her that
myself
way.
out the picture, and I know everything is going to still work. So you have to be a lead. Again, I'm raising leaders.
Yeah,
and
that's the goal, parents.
It is.
It really
for
is.
me, at least, definitely. And I love that. Even pushing my friends towards their own leadership. Even
Absolutely.
again, like when I first met Deb, that wasn't doing business or anything like that, but I was like, look, if this is something you want to do, I'm gonna nurture this as much as possible. I'm gonna let you into the ugly sides, the beautiful parts, encourage you, push you, because like I want you to have that freedom that you need, and I'm not. Well, she can't go anywhere. I told her that. I don't care if we was beeping, whatever. You better sit in a corner and not talk to me. But, even if her talents have branched her out somewhere that exceeds me, as long as she agrees not to leave me. I'm just kidding. But
I'm not going anywhere.
I know. But
that's
even still,
goal.
but if let's just say that ever was my reality, I'm going to be clapping for you all the way, because I know that you are wise enough and smart enough that if I needed someone to transition in, you will fully train that person for everything.
I was about to say, I think that, and that's the thing about leadership, is kind of knowing, I feel like things are seasonal. So even if when this show gets picked up and you're like, okay, you got to speak it out there. But when this show gets picked up and it's things that I can't do, you have to have, that's the beauty of having and building other leaders, is having people that can step in. No, I'm one person, the same as you're one person. It's like you have to be able to transfer that information. I've been around, and I think, like you said, like mentorship, and I won't call it mentorship, but I've had a preview of somebody who's great at what they do, but can never transfer that skill to anybody else. And it's kind of sad, because it's like, if you really want to be a business owner, if you really want to do something, you have to be able to train other people
and teach people
and teach other people to do what you do. Now it's going to have their own thing on it.
But I think some people are good at things, but that doesn't deem them a leader.
I think they're good at, I don't think that that's it. I think some people are, I don't know, and I don't want to speak to if it's intimidation or if people worry. Like, for instance, for me, I feel like what you kind of said. If I know something, if I know that's hot over there and you're going that way, I'm going to tell you, don't go there because it's hot, right? Other people feel like, hey, I had to struggle to get to this place, so I don't want to share that information. And it's like, but that's the point. Like, you know how you always say, and I don't know exactly, you'll know what I mean. Like, oh, well, you have to be the sacrifice, so to speak, right?
Yes. So people don't have to go through that.
So people don't have to go through. It's like, I want to be able to, whether it's my kids, whether it's leaders, whomever, whether it's work, whomever, if I can prevent you from hurt and pain or the struggle that I had to go through, like, why you have to go through the same thing to get to that place? You don't have to. I learned that lesson, and I learned it for a reason. I feel like when people are, and I'm gonna call it selfish, because I think selfish and sharing, and I know everybody's not at a vulnerable, transparent place to share, like sometimes how you share or sometimes how I share, but it helps other people.
It does.
And it helps and prevents those same places. I don't want to get scarred in the same place you got scarred. So if I can teach you whatever that is, whether it's teaching Kayla, how to run the business, so when she's ready, whether it's, your business or her own business, she already has a skill set that's transferable. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't think that people really tap into that sometimes, because your leadership should not only be just for you. It should be shared with people, so you can look back. It's going to be a time at some point for me to sit down, for you to sit down, and I'm about to travel this world. I'm already trying to travel it now. But at a point that somebody can step in and step into.
If we were not here.
Yeah, when you're not there. I don't want to I want to be on the beach. Call me if it's an emergency. Please don't I don't know if it makes people feel important. I'm not really sure because I'm not set up like that.
Yeah, I just trust
I trust who I put under.
Yeah.
I don't want to say under, but who I have on my team.
And that's how I treat all of my employees. I have 4 employees, and I just expect them to do what it is that they do well.
Yeah.
Unless there's something that you don't do that I disagree with, that's when I'll come to you in a corrective manner. But other than that, I literally have my workers like prepping, getting stuff done while I'm somewhere else building. Like, you get what I'm saying? So that's efficiency.
Yeah. And it frees you up.
It does.
To do other things.
It does. Like, because again, you can't be in charge of everything.
No,
like,
you
sometimes you have to, like, I've been in cases where, I have my own pop-up shop experience and I know exactly how it's ran and I do things my way, but sometimes I've stepped in other people's stage and I've had to listen and I've had to follow what they felt was good, and I had to, because that's respect from one leader to the next, because I do respect what it is that you're setting in place for, carrying out whatever mission that you have. So I think when we tap into what leadership means, it's respect, it's trust, it's trusting in people's ability, trusting that they're going to get the job done, trusting your own intuition that you're making the right decisions for what you need.
And trusting that the person who you have on your team loves what you love the same way. Do you know what I mean? Because I think that's a big thing too. Like, I wouldn't do anything to be like, oh, I'm just going to do hers anyway, but I'm going to do everything for my... No, it doesn't work like that. I want you to look just as good as what I'm doing for myself, and you should want to do that. So
Absolutely.
Trust is huge.
Trust is huge, and I feel like, because I'll be honest, I've worked with a lot of different entrepreneurs, and there are people who are still workers to me. And I'm not... That is not a...
Workers aren't a bad thing.
Workers aren't a bad
workers.
thing. We do need workers. So when I say that, this is what I mean. You have not tapped into what it means to actually lead something, and I mean overhead it. Like, where
everybody's not meant to do that on that level.
Correct. So but one thing about entrepreneurship, you do need leadership. You do need it. Like, you will be stuck if you work like a worker. That's my opinion. I mean, you could take that however you need to, but it's true. Like, if you have to be able, because you facilitate, like you facilitate in a lot of different areas. And sometimes what I say by workers is that some people are not even, they don't want to give up. Like what we just talked about. It's like, you want to hold on like so bad to what it is that you do, because you don't trust that anybody's going to do it just as good or just like you. But like we said, if you go into training people, getting people right, the time, like when you have that mentality, this is why I said worker, because if you are a leader in entrepreneurship and you understand what entrepreneurship is, you know that time is money. So that if currency. You are literally working 12, 16 hours to get a little bit of things done, when you could still work that 12 to 16 hours, but you ain't getting one thing done. You got about five things done because you have someone else behind you or you trust to carry out the mission. So that's why I said, like, sometimes people still have like worker mentalities and like you're just almost like, hey, this is my assignment and this is the only thing that I do. No, when you're an entrepreneur, you have to do everything. You got to take payments. You got to talk to people, network, be this customer service. So it's a lot of different
shelves.
You stocking shelves. You know what I'm saying? You uploading a website. It's a lot of things that come into that. So if you are in your worker mind, like, that ain't my job kind of thing sometimes, where people be like, well, I'm not doing all of that. That's worker. That's like a worker. Like, oh, I'm not doing anything outside of what I need to do. That's a worker mindset.
From my mindset, it's like, I want to know how to do everything so I can step in when needed, but I don't want to be consumed with doing all of that. I just feel like any major company that you ever look at, it's a huge corporation. It takes how many people to have that run.
CEO don't even know.
Yeah, and it's like, depending on what your dreams are, and we can't, you know what I mean, kind of dream for people. So depending on what level of dream you are, but what I want is, like, I know it's going to take people. It's no way for that not to happen. And even what we're doing now, and the things that we plan in the future, it's no way that
There's
we
no
could
way.
man that.
Even
with
the
what we
pop-up shop
have. No.
experience, like when you came on my team, I was so glad because I felt like, not that it was still a lot of work.
Yeah,
But I
it's a
felt
different-
good in those
a different
areas. It
level.
was different because I had someone who came in who was like taking some task off of me. And also, shout out to all of those businesses who helped to make the pop-up shop
Absolutely.
experience
I love
absolutely
them.
amazing
They're
because
amazing.
between them promoting and inviting people and telling the world, like there were times I never even had to promote juicing because all my businesses
even
that
know
were
what to
in
say. I
it,
don't
like
think
they
you
were
did.
like, well, make sure you see the juice girl. You know, they
Yeah.
were selling the products for me. So again, and I was very careful with who I picked in my pop-up shop because of that. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm not going to walk up to somebody and be like, yeah, you can't be in my pop-up shop because you're not a leader. No, but there are certain characteristics, there are things that I look for because I know what I needed to make
Yeah.
sure that was amazing. And I thank God for the pop-up shop experience. It was so
dope.
amazing.
So
And
dope.
led me to this different platform for Befit for Business where I don't have to just be limited to who I work with, but it's so broad in that we could work with tons of businesses. But thank you so much, Deb, for coming on the show. Thank you for giving people like a fly view on the wall, on the different things that we discuss and that we talk about. If we had to leave the listeners with something when it comes to leaders, what would you say?
I would say to be wise in choosing your team. To be open to new ideas. I know that change is so hard. I just had this conversation today. Change is really hard, but I just believe that God sends us what we need. And it doesn't always look like we thought it would, but having great leaders around you just kind of gives you a different lens of seeing what could be next. And this is a perfect example of that the connection at one point that I was looking for from different people I got from you, and I almost missed you. I always say that.
I
So
love
don't
you.
I love you
We
too.
love that.
So that would be my thing. Be wise and don't miss what God sends you or who God sends you.
Yeah, and I'm again, like what I said is like, even if you, let's just speak from what I would leave the listeners with, would say, even if you are a leader, as you are coaching, as you are mentoring, as you are guiding people in the process, be okay with letting them go.
Yeah,
Be
that's a
okay
good
that they
one.
are going to soar. If you are a great leader, that is your prize in the end. That
I
you
was gonna
can
say
watch you birth another leader and
Yeah.
you can watch them soar.
I love that.
Yeah, so shout out to you, Deb. Again, love that you
Aw,
came on
thank
the
you
show.
for having me on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's leaders, y'all.
See y'all later.